Speaking of Iran and the US, tensions continue to escalate sharply in the Strait of Hormuz between the two. In the latest, a US destroyer fired on and even seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship in the Gulf of Oman. Now, according to the US Central Command, the Iranian vessel Tuska was transiting the North Arabian Sea and was en route to Iran's Bandar Abbas. CENTCOM says that the vessel ignored multiple warnings given over a period of 6 hours, leading US missile destroyer USS Spruance to fire at the Iranian vessel's engine room. CENTCOM also said US Marines boarded this vessel. They took off from the amphibious assault ship USS Tripoli in a helicopter, landing and rappelling down over the MV Tuska. The ship is now in US custody as US Marines took charge of the ship. However, Iranian media reports something very different. They say that the IRGC naval units responded to the shooting incident with firing coming in from the USS Spruance. And Iran says the Iranian state media claims that they forced the US destroyer to retreat. Now, what you see on the screens now, this is the exact moment of the seizure of the Iranian vessel. As I had mentioned, US Marines went on board MV Tuska. And the video shared by the CENTCOM in a post on X narrates the whole incident, how US Marines departed the amphibious assault ship USS Tripoli. They departed by a helicopter, transited over the Arabian Sea to board and then seize Tuska. The night vision view gives you a sense of the late night hour during which this operation took place. Now, according to marine traffic data, the Tuska is a container ship. It's a large-sized container ship, I might add, which left Port Klang in Malaysia 8 days ago. It had been in transit all through the week. According to Vessel Finder, the ship was headed to the Iranian port city of Bandar Abbas. Now, in a post on Truth Social, US President Trump said that the Iranian vessel was attempting to breach the US naval blockade, forcing the US Navy to intercept the vessel and take it into its custody. Iran's military has vowed to respond against the US action. A spokesperson for the Iranian military's command center labeled the US action as armed piracy and vowed to retaliate soon. And state media has reported that they have forced the US destroyer to back off and retreat. He also accused the US of violating the ceasefire, which has been in place since April 8th. Pertinent to add here, just over 30 hours ago, the IRGC opened fire on Indian-flagged vessels while the ceasefire was still in place, after giving clearance to the vessels to pass. They were forced to move west of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, coming back to the tensions between US and Iran, as tensions escalate, the second round of the Iran-US talks are now in a state of limbo. The US seems ready to continue with the talks as scheduled, but Iranian state broadcast IRIB cited Iranian sources saying Tehran has currently no plans to participate in the next round of talks in Islamabad. This comes after US President Donald Trump said new negotiations would take place in Islamabad. Trump also said that the US has offered a fair and reasonable deal, and if Iran rejects the deal, the US will knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. We've heard that before from the US president. Reports now say that the US naval blockade and what Tehran considers as unreasonable and unrealistic demands are among the chief reasons for its refusal to join the talks. The seizure of the Iranian cargo ship has further complicated matters. Iran's ambassador to Pakistan, Reza Amiri Moghadam, articulated Tehran's position. He posted this on social media. The Iranian envoy accused the US of violating international law and insisting on unreasonable demands. Amid questions that loom over the second round of talks on Sunday, Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif held a telephone call with his Iranian counterpart, with the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. According to a statement by the Prime Minister's office, Sharif and Pezeshkian discussed the current regional situation. Interestingly, the statement makes no mention of the second round of talks or a visit by the Iranian delegation to Pakistan. Meanwhile, thousands gathered in Tehran to rally in support of the Iranian government, with many voicing a complete distrust towards the US. Now, interestingly, in the midst of this, on Sunday, Trump reposted an old video on Truth Social showing Iranians drawing graffiti on a wall which read, "President Trump, please help." The video was first shared by Trump at the beginning of the unrest in Iran earlier in this year.
We are not afraid of war. Even if not just one attack, but continuous attacks are carried out against our country, we will certainly move forward with greater strength and authority. But in my view, given the situation as it is developing, the United States and Israel have no option but to surrender to Iran's demands.
Now, earlier today, I had a detailed discussing the escalating West Asia conflict. I spoke with Colonel David B. DeRoche, who joined us from Washington, D.C. He's a professor at Thayer Marshall Institute and former deputy director for peacekeeping in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Given his military background, he was able to provide deep perspective on what could perhaps happen next. Listen to this excerpt.
One of the big debates since the Iranian Revolution in Washington has been who actually controls Iran. And the diplomats who come to talk to the Americans and to other countries on Iran's behalf, are they really empowered? Can they make a decision? If they make an agreement, can they stick to it? Or are they just there to distract us? And the real power lays with the Revolutionary Guard and the people who speak for the supreme leader, or in the name of the supreme leader, who we have to emphasize for your viewers, there is absolutely no proof the supreme leader is alive. There's as much proof that I have an alien here in my house that as there is that the supreme leader is actually alive. So what we saw was the foreign minister left Islamabad ostensibly with some conditions agreed to, and was denounced by the official Iranian news agency just as a matter of mechanics of negotiations. That's not an organization you can negotiate with, because it keeps shifting. So it's quite possible that the Iranians, there's an internal struggle over what their real line is and who really holds power. And at some point, the person who does hold power will come to negotiate. But I think that it may take some more pressure on the Iranians, and that pressure will most likely take the form of a renewed bombing campaign and possibly an expanded bombing campaign.